mainly goes to the initiative, the commitment, and the passion of Dr. Datta, who along with Mark Jones have worked together endlessly, tirelessly, in order to make their passion come true. I've had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Datta and Mark Jones 4 years ago, and have kept coming back to this conference year after year, simply because I find this to be one of the best organized conferences. As Dr. Datta said, small is beautiful. And I find the three themes, method, integrity, camaraderie, that really shines through. You will see that happening in the next two days. It's a small conference in which everyone mingles together, shares ideas, and there's a lot of positive energy that comes out of this conference. So once again, I want to welcome you all. I hope you have a wonderful stay in Oxford, networking, interacting, collaborating, and listening to presentations. How many presentations? We have had 94 plus, almost close to 100, including the keynote speeches and the workshops. And we are being represented by 31 different countries. 33 different countries. Amazing. Every year it seems to be increasing in its global reach. So congratulations to Dr. Datta and to Mark and to David, who have made this happen. And once again, welcome to you all. Thank you.
If we can just refer back now to the fact that our first keynote speaker, unfortunately, has an issue, so really can't be with us today. I think we all send our best to himself and his family. But as I said earlier, in this place we have Mark Jones. So we're replacing quality with quality.
Thank you.
Mark,
thank you very much indeed, David. That's very kind. And lovely to see Professor Sampalli representing Canada here. And every time I meet him, I realise I've got to get to Canada. He's so full of energy. Obviously, the air of Nova Scotia, it's remarkable. I was delighted that you talked about the positivity in the UK at the moment. I'm going to bring us back down to earth, ladies and gentlemen, by uttering a word: Brexit. Actually, if I said that in some parts of the world, in some parts of the country, there would have been a big cheer. But you and I are realists, and we realise that a monumental struggle is taking place. In fact, I spoke about Brexit at the Oxford conference 3 days before that momentous event. Professor Spencer from South Africa is sat at the back there. He was there to witness. He can testify to that very fact. So I thought, well, what should I talk about? I'm going to take the bull by the horns. I'm going to touch on Brexit. Many, many conferences shy away from this topic. I thought, well, I'm going to go straight in there and talk a little bit about it, particularly in respect of diplomacy and negotiation, because this is very much at the heart of this 2-year struggle that seems to be going on. Now, in life, we must always be ready for those unexpected moments. If you're in business, we have a number of leading business figures here. You know that external events have the habit of providing opportunities and occasionally threats. Something remarkable happened in the last 24 hours. If you've been watching the media, the chief minister, or the person responsible for negotiating Brexit on behalf of the United Kingdom, has resigned. David Davis resigned last night after 2 years of slugging it out with Michel Barnier. He's thrown in the towel and said to Theresa May, I am no longer prepared to carry on. That is seismic, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to have enormous ramifications, not just for the UK and for politics, and specifically for the Prime Minister and the Conservative Party, but it will also have ramifications for the direction of Brexit, because the tenor of Brexit will be expected to change. So we're living in very interesting times, and that news broke after I'd even put this presentation together. Some would say it's manna from heaven for me. It's an opportunity for me. Anyway, I've titled my talk, Brexit and the Importance of Francois de Callier and George C. Homans. You will not get a talk like this anywhere else, an international conference that mentions these two people in regard of Brexit. So I hope in that respect I'm bringing something new to the table. Sorry. Which is the one for moving on? There you are. So, ladies and gentlemen, feast your eyes. Remember that moment when you heard the news 2 years ago that Britain had voted by a margin, a narrow margin, 51.8% of those that voted for Britain to leave the European Union. The reactions were extraordinary. In some quarters, people were ecstatic. In other areas, people were despondent, despairing, exasperated, angry, perplexed. How could they do this? What madness is this? What was not apparent was what the chart or direction of travel was going to be precisely, and also no one was neutral. No one sat on the fence on this one. This was, in England we have an expression, there's a product, a food product called Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. This has invariably been the way with Brexit. People are either pro it or they're totally, implacably against it. Now imagine being a leader, and that's the hand you've been dealt. You're in a leadership role, and you know on the one hand, people are implacably against, and on the other hand, there are those who are passionately for. And you're having to straddle the two sides to stay in power. That's the position of poor Theresa May faces with her own party, let alone the nation. It's a challenge. And of course it's a challenge of a relationship under change. It's like being in a marriage for 45 years and then having to sort out the divorce, the property, the children, and everything else that goes with it. And you try and remain calm throughout that. People are going to get hurt, are they not? People are going to feel aggrieved. They're going to feel bitter. They're going to feel suspicious of what the motivations of the other parties are. So Francois de Callier, do you know of him? Is he a household name? I think not. Has anyone ever heard of him? That's a result for me. Because I'm addressing the knowledge deficits. Here's someone I believe you should have heard of. And if you've not read his book, I'm going to give it a plug, although he's been dead since 1717 or thereabouts. This was the man who encapsulated what diplomacy and negotiation should be about. He was a diplomatist in the era of Louis XIV, when France was at its peak in regards to power in Europe. And yet he was the man that said, look, we need to start thinking about how we negotiate with other people. It should not be about power and strength. It should be about intelligence. It should be about understanding other cultures and their dynamics and their story. And he said, well, if we're going to do that, I need to write the guidebook. And it's called On the Manner of Negotiating with Princes. And if we substitute the word politicians, business leaders, lawyers, it doesn't matter that the word princes is there. This is an absolute goldmine of how to go about negotiation in a constructive, positive, and purposeful way. His was a non-Machiavellian approach. It was not about pulling a dirty trick on your opponents. It was not about seeking to subvert your opponents. Appreciate them, understand where they're coming from, walk in their shoes intellectually, and then you will be better placed to play your cards. Of course, it was also a manifesto, a guide to how negotiators can serve their government, or in his case, serve their king, because that's his primary purpose, to serve his king. But it was not by fair means and foul. It was by honest means and measured means. So what does a diplomat or negotiator need to be? Maybe I need to get on the phone to number 10 Downing Street and I'll have a little chat with the Prime Minister about the criteria as she goes about appointing her next Brexit secretary. What do we need to see in the next Brexit secretary? We certainly need to see application, applying themselves to the task. Courage, ladies and gentlemen, courage in French.